Hey everybody, my name is Mike. I am a software engineer at PreSonus, and I recently had the opportunity to do a recording session with an artist called LeTrainiump. LeTrainiump's a really fun act. He's kind of a mix of 80s pop with a little bit of a Motown vibe, lots of fun dancing. So for this session there was a live drummer with a 4-piece kit, and then there was live vocals in the same room as the drummer about 4 feet away. I thought the best product to use would be our PreSonus 1824C. I needed kick, 2 snare mics, 2 tom mics, and then 2 overheads and 1 vocal. That's exactly 8 channels. So that worked out perfectly, and then I was able to build monitor mixes right in Studio One. So a lot of times when you're working with live instruments, a big challenge is getting good tones before the audio even hits the microphone. So we spent a lot of time setting up, getting the baffles in the right places. I wanted a kind of direct, punchy, almost electronic drum sound, and so I decided to close mic everything. And so for the kick drum, I used actually this very microphone right here. This is a fantastic microphone made by our friends over at United Studio Technologies. It's a UT FET 47, and it is a fantastic microphone on kick drum. And then, I used the standard SM57 on snare. One interesting thing that I did was I had a figure of 8 condenser on the bottom snare that picked up the snares and the kick drum. So that's kind of an interesting technique you can get. And then of course I used our PreSonus PM2 small diaphragm condensers on overheads, which sound great. So for vocals, I decided I wanted to use a microphone that would give me a little bit more control over the drum bleed. So I used a Shure SM7B, which is a dynamic microphone. When it came time to mix, I had the opportunity to do a lot of creative things. For instance, I wanted a little bit more of an electronic sound, so I took a signal generator, set it to generate a sine wave at like 45 hertz, and then I sidechained a gate to the kick drum so that every time the kick drum hit, it would open the gate and then you'd hear the tone. And it made it sound like a nice 808 style resonant electronic kick. The snare drum was a ton of fun on this mix. So I wanted to give it kind of that electronic 1980s gated snare sound. And so, with a human being playing drums, the sound may not be as consistent as, say, a drum machine would. And so to get around that, what I did was I found one of the cleaner hits on the snare drum, and I sampled that by exporting the stem, and then I loaded that in to the built-in drum machine in Studio One. That's Impact. And then using MIDI, I triggered that sampled snare sound from the real snare, and then I sent the sample to an effects bus where I got the gated reverb sound by using a red light distortion, fed into a gate, which was fed into the Lexicon MPX reverb, which is available on our store, and a couple other stages of reverbs and gates to get that really crackin' 80s gated snare sound. For our bass, I kind of wanted to make it sound more like a synth bass, and so I decided to use a little bit of overdrive and then put it through an auto filter to kind of give it that synthy character. The vocal was not hard to get above the mix, but I wanted to give it a little bit more texture. But I didn't want the effects to wash out the dry vocals. I still wanted it to be intelligible, so what I did was I sent the vocals to an effects bus, and then I used a compressor sidechain to the vocal, to the dry vocal, to duck the reverb and delay whenever he was singing. That way you would hear the dry vocal, and then immediately when he stopped singing, you hear the tail of the reverb and delay. It's a really cool effect and a way to get a nice sense of space without washing out the vocal. So all throughout this process, I never once left Studio One. The built-in plugins you have, with addition to the ones you can purchase from PreSonus, are just top-notch, and you really don't need anything else to get a great mix. And that's what I love about Studio One. It's really an incredibly powerful tool, and I can't recommend it highly enough.